at these panels up here by me, still in their wrappers. They've never been used. But if you do, for any reason, find yourself in the San Antonio River today, please don't panic. Just stand up and walk right out. It's only about 3 to 4 feet deep. Should be all right. Now we'll start off the tour here with this new sculpture over here to the left, just been unveiled in the last 2 years. It's called Stargazer. It's done by an artist named Pedro Reyes from Mexico City, made almost entirely out of volcanic rock, with the exception of the star in the figure's hand that's made of carved marble. As you come around the bend, take a look to the right, you'll see a large bronze statue. And that statue is San Antonio de Padua, or St. Anthony. And St. Anthony was a friar in the 12th century from Portugal. That statue was a gift from Portugal for the hemisphere of 1968. And St. Anthony had a huge role when it came to the naming of this river. When the Spanish explorers first came upon the river, it happened to be June 13th, 1691, which is the feast day of St. Anthony. So they called the river the San Antonio River. Now, prior to that, the river was known as Yana Buena, which is a Payaya Indian dialect that means place of peaceful waters. It is up to the right here. It'll be through the trees up at street level. You'll get a good view here in a second. You'll see the top of the church steeple. And that's St. Joseph's Catholic Church up there. It was built in 1868. And it was built by German settlers. Now, back in the 1800s, this whole area was hugely populated by Germans. And they wanted to have a church where they could have Mass in their own language. So they built themselves a church. Now, to this day, every last Sunday of the month, they do all the services completely in German. They have a choir that comes in by the name of Liederkranz. They sing all the hymns in German as well. I believe that's going to be next Sunday. So if you're still in town and you're yearning for a German sermon, go check it out. Now to the left here, after this last big tree, you'll see the Hilton Palacio del Rio, or Palace on the River. I'll give you a little bit of history behind that hotel up there. So 1968, we had the World's Fair come to San Antonio. They called it the Hemisphere. We had 7 million people coming to town for Hemisphere over the course of 6 months. And we didn't have a whole lot of places to put them. That hotel was booked solid 14 months before Hemisphere. All 500 rooms were completely booked. Now, the big problem with that is there was no hotel there, just an empty space. So they needed to get a hotel built very quickly. What they did is they called on a graduate from Texas A&M University by the name of H.B. Zachary. And how he did it is about 8 miles south of here. He constructed every room, complete with the carpet on the floors, pictures on the walls, soaps in the dishes, towels on the racks, Bibles in the drawers. The beds were made. He loaded those rooms on flatbed trucks, drove them into town, hoisted them up by crane, and stacked them, one on top of another, like Lego blocks. Now we're about to come in front of the building here. It's on the left. When we do take a look past the first 4 floors, you'll see that every room after that is identical in dimension. And this building is also in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the fastest constructed modular building of its size. They completed the entire project in just 202 working days. And they took weekends off, so it was about 8 months' time when they finished. It was just 3 days before Hemisphere. So really close call. Now if you look up at each of those rooms up there to the left, you'll see that the walls, the floors, the ceilings, they're all solid concrete. They say that it's soundproof, fireproof, waterproof, explosion-proof. They really tested that last one. That is a very sturdy building, I can assure you. Now, to give you an idea just how impressive it was that they built this entire hotel in only 202 days, take a look to the right at that ticket booth. That's 1 room with 3 windows. That took 18 months to build. Now, the next section of the river we're about to get into, just after this bridge coming up, is an area known as La Villita, or Little Village. And this area was settled by the Spanish soldiers and their families back in the 1700s. If you go up to street level here, there are nice little art galleries and boutiques. Some good places to shop up there. We have 2 restaurants coming up on the left. Both of those used to be German homes back in the 1850s. They were the homes of the Naschiel and Bambach families. As we come around the bend, we'll be getting into the Arneson Theater. It's an open-air theater. It seats 800 people. It's named after Edwin P. Arneson. He was the chief engineer of the Works Project Administration that completed the Riverwalk back in 1941.
Yeah, I know.
They just got done with a big tuba festival, like 100 tubas out here. If you're looking to get to the shops at La Villita, the stairs are coming up on the left to get you there pretty quick. So we head through the theater. Take a look to the right at the stage. You might recognize it for Miss Congeniality. We had Sandra Bullock up there dancing around in a bathing suit. Also, 5 bronze bells right above the stage. Each one of them represents one of the 5 Spanish missions in San Antonio. We're heading under Rosita's Bridge. Rosita Fernandez played on that stage for 26 years in the show Fiesta Noche del Rio, which is still in production today. They finished season number 67 back in August. They play every Friday and Saturday night during the summer. And over here to the right is the Briscoe Western Art Museum that just recently opened. It's got a lot of different artwork showing the history of the West, as well as an interactive diorama. The Battle of the Alamo, Pancho Villa's saddle, and Santa Anna's sword are on display in there. I'm sure you've noticed a lot of the trees have lights hanging from them. So you know it takes them 3 months to put those up. They leave them up through the holidays. It takes another 3 months to take them down. Why they just don't leave them up all year, I'm not sure. Seems like that'd be a lot easier. They do look nice when they come on. They'll be completely on tonight by 6 o'clock. That's when the lines will grow exponentially. So if you're planning on going again tonight, get your tickets in advance, but expect a 2 to 3 hour wait to get on the boats. We're going to be heading under the Presses Street Bridge coming up. This is a solid iron bridge built in the 1890s. It's called an iron ornamental bridge. There are 10 of these left in the United States. 3 are on the San Antonio River. This one sits pretty low, so we're going to steer right through the middle of it. You might think you're going to hit your head on it, but trust me, if you don't stand up, you'll be fine. I, on the other hand, may not fare as well. We'll go right through the middle here. And just up ahead on the right, after this bridge, you'll see a small island with an iron sculpture on it. The sculpture is known as Father Massenet's Table. And that was a gift from artist Rolando Briceño in 1991. It's put there to commemorate the first Catholic Mass that took place in San Antonio on June 13th, 1691. If you take a close look at the island, you see it's completely comprised of that cypress tree's root system. And it's also a heart-shaped island. It's known as Marriage Island. We have over 300 weddings that take place there every year. We had 4 last Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And on the other side of the bridge, we have Divorce Island. Might be a busier island. Now this part of the river is actually known as Old Mill Crossing. Back in the 1800s, Nat Lewis had his mill on the right bank. He would grind grain for the settlers. And this was also a very shallow part of the river. Settlers could cross, they'd water their horses. Teddy Roosevelt, the Rough Riders, used to train right in this area. On the right we have the Westin Hotel that was built in 1999. It's a really new addition to the Riverwalk. It's surrounded by all these older buildings, though. Just past the Westin there on the right, there's a darker red brick building that used to be the San Antonio Drug Company. From 1919 to 1963, now it's the Homewood Suites, remodeled in 95. And here on the left, this is the Tower Life building. This one lights up the San Antonio skyline. It was built in 1927 and 1928. It used to be called the Smith-Young Tower. If you look all the way up to the top of the tower, you'll see these concrete structures jutting out of each of the 8 corners. Those are known as gargoyles. They serve as a rain drainage system, so when it rains, the water comes out of the gargoyles' mouths into the gutters below. Now, if you look just above the trees over here to the left, you'll see these angry little scary faces kind of snarling down at you. Those are known as grotesques. Now, the whole building is an example of neo-Gothic architecture. The original owners, Smith and Young, were fairly superstitious. They put all these things in place to ward off evil spirits and bad business. Unfortunately, 1 year after the building opened, the stock market crashed. In 1929, it cost them over $3 million to build it. They had to sell it for less than $300,000. So it doesn't say much for gargoyles, but I'll show you a neat little effect when we come out from under this bridge. Take a look back at the Tower Life building and you'll notice that it's transformed into a ship. Looks like it's coming onto the river right behind us. Got to use your imagination just a little bit. Just imagine a little Leonardo DiCaprio hanging off the front of it, if that helps. Now here on the right's the International Center. That was the San Antonio Main Public Library until 1998. Now it has the offices of the San Antonio Conventions Bureau. It's also right above one of our marinas where we dock some of our boats at night. And directly in front of us is old Big Red. That's the Bexar County Courthouse, built in 1896. It's made of red sandstone and granite. One of the oldest and largest continuously operating courthouses in Texas. Now, just in case there's any cross traffic here, I have to honk the horn. Don't be alarmed. So this part of the river that we've been on, this is all the natural flow of the river. It's a naturally occurring horseshoe bend in the San Antonio River. The river flows to the left, we're headed to the right, into a man-made part. We're entering into the flood channel, we're just leaving through floodgate 4. Now when it rains really hard, floodgate 4 will rise up out of the water like a drawbridge. Keeps the water at the exact same level in the horseshoe bend at all times. There's never any flooding back there. The hotels, the mall, the restaurants, all completely safe from flooding. Now it doesn't rain very often in San Antonio, but when it does, it can rain really hard, really fast. And flooding used to be a huge problem for downtown. In 1921, we had a flood that caused a lot of deaths, did a lot of property damage. So the Army Corps of Engineers came in here and they built this flood channel for us. And that put an end to all our downtown flooding problems. There were a lot of prominent businessmen that wanted to fill in and pave over that other part of the river we were just on, make room for more buildings and streets. But lucky for us, two women had the foresight to put a stop to that. It was Emily Edwards and Raina Maverick Green. They formed the San Antonio Conservation Society in 1924. And a few years after that, there was a graduate from the University of Texas by the name of Robert H. Hugman. And he designed the entire Riverwalk at the age of 27. Presented his plans to the city. The city approved it in 1929. Still wasn't completed until 41 after the Works Project Administration took over, but Hugman is still known as the father of the Riverwalk. He designed every walkway and staircase, every planter, lamppost, and bench. Everything you see in the Horseshoe Bend is pretty much Hugman's design. Now, he didn't design this walkway over here on the right. That's fairly new. It's been there about 17 years. That was a gift from the Drury Plaza Hotel. It's an 850-foot walkway that connects floodgates 3 and 4. Now you can walk all the way around the horseshoe. Now over here to the left, through the trees, kind of hard to see anything back there, but it's Main Plaza. Established in 1731 by Spanish settlers from the Canary Islands. It used to be the heart of the city. There's also San Fernando Cathedral back there, built in 1739. Still houses some of the remains of the heroes from the Battle of the Alamo. Now people always think that the San Antonio River is just a small river, or it's man-made, doesn't flow very fast, but it actually starts just about 6 miles north of here on the campus of Incarnate Word University. And it comes up through springs from an underground lake known as the Edwards Aquifer. Flows through the zoo, through downtown, goes about 230 miles southeast of here, where it meets up with the Guadalupe River, flows out to the Gulf of Mexico. Now you see that big tree right in front of us? That's the oldest and largest cypress tree in San Antonio. It's over 350 years old, over 9 stories tall. Also known as the sniper tree. Back in 1835, there was a Texas patriot by the name of Ben Milam. He was staying at the Vermonte Palace, which was right behind us, and he was shot by a sniper from that tree right there. And now we're going to go under floodgate 3. This one comes down like a guillotine. Don't worry, they all start their random testing till after 1 p.m. Oh, it takes about 15 minutes for that to come down completely. It does weigh 3 tons. Comes straight down. Coming up on the right is the Esquire Tavern. That was the first bar on the Riverwalk. They opened their doors in 1933. And they opened the day after Prohibition ended. They pretty much just took down the barbershop pole and it was business as usual. They say it was a speakeasy before that. Also, it has the longest wooden bar in Texas at 108 feet long. And on the left is the Drury Inn and Suites. That used to be the City Public Service Building back in 1921. Just to give you an idea of the severity of that flood, if you look to the top of the first floor windows, right where the three shields are, that's how high the flood of 1921 reached. It was a major flood. It's a great example, though, of how we like to take an old building, give it a second chance at a new life here in San Antonio. We try not to tear anything down if we can help it.
Yeah, it's got.
Coming up on the right, you'll see tourists in their natural habitat. It's another one of our ticket locations here. This was at the Aztec Theater. The Aztec over here to the right was opened in 1926. It used to show silent movies. They just finished about a 3-year-long run with a country western show known as San Antonio Rose Live. They have another live music venue on now. One of the last remaining Mayan theme theaters left in the United States. We're going to head under Salinas Bridge, named after late Tejano singer Selena Quintanilla. She was photographed on this bridge, as well as Jennifer Lopez, who played her in the movie Selena. So partially filmed right up here. And the beige building over here on the right, that's the Mocara Hotel now, but it used to be the home of the L. Frank Saddlery. From 1901 to 1923, they outfitted Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, as well as Mexican revolutionary Francisco Pancho Villa. And right before World War I, they provided boots, saddles, and harnesses for the United States Army. And on the left is La Mansión del Rio, or Mansion on the River. It used to be the site of the St. Mary's School for Boys back in 1853. Then it was the St. Mary's Academy and the St. Mary's Law School. In 1966, 2 former students from the law school purchased the building. They remodeled it, opened it up for Hemisphere in 1968. It still has some of the original artifacts from the boys' school in the lobby and in the lounge. Now we're going to head under the Navarro Street Bridge. When we come out from under this bridge, I'm going to show you a really cool optical illusion. So when we come out from under the bridge, everyone take a look up and to the left, where once stood a 26-story, 3-dimensional building. Will have been replaced by a 26-story, 2-dimensional wall. Looks like it might fall right on top here. Take a look up and to the left here. And that's the Nix Hospital right there. It was built in 1930. It's one of the country's first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospitals. And everything from ambulance service to daycare to indoor parking. Carol Burnett was born in that hospital, as well as Oliver North. And this part of the river here is known as South Bank. This is where you're going to find a lot of the nightlife on the Riverwalk. Relatively quiet now. Give it another 7 or 8 hours. People will be lined up on the sides of the river, screaming at every boat that goes by, throwing things at the boat drivers. I don't recommend that. That's why I work the early shift. I can come back here and throw things on boat drivers. Now right in front of us is the Hyatt Regency that was built in 1981. The Alamo is just on the other side of the Hyatt. And normally this is a great way to get there. So come around the bend, take a look to the left, you'll see these glass doors with the headers that read Paseo del Alamo. The passageway to the Alamo. It's usually the quickest way to get there from the river level. They're doing some construction through there. I'm not sure if you can make it straight through to the other side, but the Alamo is just on the other side of the Hyatt. The street in front of us is Crockett Street. You're less than half a block away from the Alamo. You can take Crockett from here. You can also go straight through the mall and just exit out of the IMAX Theater. But an interesting side note about the Hyatt Regency, when it was being designed, it had to meet strict height requirements. It wasn't allowed to cast a shadow on the Alamo at sunset. This building over here on the right, this is the Casino Club building. It was opened in 1927. It used to be a German social club and later became apartments. There was a famous author that lived there by the name of Alex Haley. He wrote a lot of books that became movies. Probably most notably was Roots. He lived there. Also actor Tommy Lee Jones lived in that building for just a little while. Now we're getting into my favorite part of the Riverwalk. This is River Square. This is where you're going to find the majority of the restaurants, all the tantalizing aromas. Now we also offer a dining boat service where you can go to any one of these restaurants and set that up. You can get a breakfast boat, lunch, dinner. If you just want cocktails, you can get a cocktail cruise. That was on hold for a while. It's finally back. Nice way to enjoy the Riverwalk. Now the Riverwalk first opened in 1941. It didn't look a whole lot like this. It was more of a city park, a place to take the family out, have a picnic. But the father and designer of the Riverwalk, Robert H.H. Hugman, he had a different vision for his design. So he put his office here in the building on the right. That's the Clifford Building. Hugman's name is written above the first floor. He put his office there to prove to everyone that a business could thrive on the Riverwalk, that he wasn't afraid of flooding. People thought he was crazy at first. It took a few years before the businesses started to follow suit. This restaurant over here on the right is Go Rio, the first restaurant on the Riverwalk. They opened their doors in 1946. They were the first ones to do the riverboat tours, as well as the dining boats. They also celebrated their 78th anniversary back in October. So we're going to be leaving the natural flow of the river one more time. We're going to head onto another man-made part, the one we originally started on. This is the bottom of the horseshoe. Give you an idea where we are. And this part of the river that we're entering was built in the 1960s for Hemisphere. Now, since we had 7 million people coming to town for Hemisphere, they built this part so people could take river taxis from the natural flow of the river to get to the convention center. And people loved the Riverwalk so much during Hemisphere, they kept coming back, bringing their families. Tourism really started to grow as a result of the Hemisphere of 1968. It kind of put us on the map. And now the San Antonio Riverwalk is the #1 tourist attraction in Texas. #2 is the Alamo, so we got them both right here. If you ever want to move to San Antonio, if you live here already, want to open up a business, we have the Chamber of Commerce on the left. We have all kinds of information for you. This message brought to you by the Chamber of Commerce. Now, since this is a man-made part of the river, there's no natural flow to it. This part of the river is lined with concrete. The rest of the river has a mud bottom. But there are still a whole lot of little critters that live here that don't realize that this is man-made. We have tilapia, perch, catfish, sunfish, crawfish. A lot of snakes in here. See that we've got turtles too. Turtles are nice. So they built this waterfall that's coming up on the right. This waterfall helps keep the water flowing, keeps it filtered and aerated, keeps all the little critters alive and well. And just to the right here, over the wall through the clearing, you'll see a tower. That looks like the Jetsons' house up there. That's the Tower of the Americas. That was the centerpiece of the Hemisphere of 1968. That's also the second tallest freestanding tower in the United States. And is second only to the Stratosphere in Las Vegas. We're actually 16 feet taller than the Space Needle in Seattle. Stratosphere has... You guys can go if you want. Okay. So the Stratosphere is the tallest. It's 1,000 feet tall. Ours is 750 feet in second place. We're 16 feet taller than the Space Needle in Seattle. Stratosphere's got some kind of ride or roller coaster or bungee jump or something on there. So we have a restaurant on ours that spins once every hour. It's not quite as fast as a roller coaster. You get a pretty good view of the tower over here to the right. That section over there to the right takes you to the convention center. Has everyone had a chance to get to the shops at River Center? If you haven't, I don't want to ruin the surprise for you, but it's a mall. It's a lot like every other mall you've ever been to, but it sits on the banks of a river. I guess that makes it kind of special. We're headed to the River Center Mall Lagoon right now. You can check it out for yourself. Our mall has 125 stores. There's a food court, an IMAX theater, a comedy club. There's also a purple store if you like purple stuff. That's all they sell. Apparently there is a demand for purple things. that I am unaware of, but they've always been very popular. They've also opened up a Dave & Buster's at the mall. We've got this Margaritaville coming up on the left. They've opened a Legoland, an aquarium called Sea Life. We've got this new miniature golf place up on the right called Holy Moly. We've got some new things going on at the mall. There's also a new section of the river that we won't cover on the tour. It's an extra 1.2 miles that's been added in the last 15 years. It's called the Museum Reach. It opened May 30th of 2009. And normally you can get there by one of our Rio shuttles. The Rio shuttles aren't running again until January. We still have some other specialty boats that go up there. They'll take you through a lock. You'll raise 9 feet, head out to the Pearl Brewery, which is now the Hotel Emma. A lot of different shops and restaurants up there. They do a farmer's market on the weekends. There's also the San Antonio Museum of Art and the VFW. Post 76, the oldest VFW post in Texas, is right there on the river and open to the public. Check out the Museum Reach if you get a chance. That farmer's market just about done for today, but it'll be on again tomorrow until about 2. And just to the left here, over the mall, is the Marriott River Center. That was built in 1988 when the rest of the mall was built. Only reason I pointed out is before it was there was another hotel there. It was the Fairmount Hotel, built in 1905. Now in San Antonio, we don't like to tear down any of our old buildings. What they did with the Fairmount, they loaded it up on pneumatic tires, and they moved it 6 city blocks to where it is today on the corner of South Alamo and Hueva. And that move is in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the largest building moved that great of a distance. The record has recently been beaten, but we did set the record back in 1985. And it took 6 days to complete the move, over 5 years of planning and paperwork. People lined the streets with coolers and lawn chairs. The whole thing was televised. Everybody wanted to see this building go down the street at 0.04 miles an hour. It's a big, exciting time for the city. It's a week before the paint drying festival. But the Fairmount still exists today. You can go check out the lobby of the hotel. They have all the newspaper clippings there documenting the event. And that does just about take us to the end of the tour, back where we started. Make sure you take a look around your seats. Make sure you haven't forgotten anything. Well, we had a great time at the tour. Just so you know, tipping is allowed. It's accepted. It's greatly appreciated by our